Have you ever gotten a raise and somehow ended up broker than you were before it? Like the math shouldn't work that way. More money coming in, same bills, same rent, same life, and yet 30 days later you're staring at your bank account wondering where it all went. You're not imagining it. This is one of the most common and least talked about financial traps in America. And the worst part? The more money you make, the deeper the trap gets. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to build wealth effortlessly while others keep earning more and somehow keep ending up with less. If you ever looked at your paycheck and thought, there's no way this isn't enough, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up changing how you see your own income. Now, before we get into the mechanics of why your salary is probably working against you, let me ask you something. Think about the highest earner you personally know. Maybe it's a doctor, a lawyer, a senior engineer, a regional manager at some company you've never heard of. Now think about whether they actually seem wealthy. Not successful looking, not nice car having, actually wealthy, financially free, could quit tomorrow wealthy. If you're being honest, probably not. And that disconnect between earning a lot and actually having a lot is exactly what we're going to pull apart today. Because once you understand why this happens, you'll never look at a salary negotiation, a promotion, or a pay raise the same way again. Let's start with a number that should make every high earner in America deeply uncomfortable. According to a survey by CNBC and Acorns, nearly 60% of Americans consider themselves living paycheck to paycheck. 60%. Now here's where it gets interesting. That statistic doesn't just describe people making minimum wage or struggling in entry-level jobs. It includes people making six figures, people with impressive job titles and comfortable-looking lives who are, quietly and privately, one unexpected expense away from financial panic. How is that possible? How does someone earning $120,000 a year end up in the same financial anxiety spiral as someone earning $40,000? The answer is lifestyle inflation, and it is relentless, invisible, and almost impossible to fight without understanding exactly how it works. Here's the basic mechanism. Every time your income increases, your brain recalibrates what feels normal. That apartment that felt perfectly fine at $40,000 suddenly feels a little cramped at $70,000. The car that got you everywhere you needed to go starts feeling embarrassing when your colleagues are pulling into the parking lot in something newer. The vacations you used to take start feeling basic compared to where people at your income level seem to be going. None of these shifts feel like decisions. They feel like natural progressions, like you're simply living the life that corresponds to where you are now. But here's the thing, they are decisions, every single one of them, and they're being made by a brain that has been very carefully conditioned by decades of marketing, social comparison, and cultural programming to equate income with spending rather than income with accumulation.
Think about that distinction for a second, equating income with spending versus equating income with accumulation. Most people, without ever consciously choosing it, operate on the first model. When income goes up, spending goes up proportionally, sometimes more than proportionally. This is lifestyle inflation in its purest form, and it's why a $40,000 raise can somehow leave you feeling exactly as financially stressed as you were before you got it. The people who actually build wealth operate on the second model. When income goes up, accumulation goes up. Spending might increase modestly, but the gap between what comes in and what goes out widens instead of staying the same or narrowing. That gap is where wealth lives, and most people, regardless of what they earn, never create it. Now let's talk about why this is so psychologically hard to resist, because I want to be really clear that this isn't a willpower problem. It's not about discipline or character or how serious you are about your financial future. This is about understanding the specific social and psychological forces that make lifestyle inflation feel not just normal, but morally justified. The first force is what psychologists call social comparison theory. Humans are fundamentally wired to evaluate themselves relative to the people around them. We don't experience our financial situation in a vacuum. We experience it through the lens of our peer group. And here's the cruel irony of climbing the income ladder. The higher you go, the more expensive your peer group becomes. When you're making $40,000 a year, your social circle is probably full of people making similar amounts. You go to similar restaurants, take similar vacations, drive similar cars. The social pressure to spend at a certain level exists, but the level isn't astronomical.
Now you get promoted, you're suddenly spending more time with people who earn significantly more, and quietly, invisibly, your reference point for what's normal shifts dramatically. The restaurants your new colleagues suggest are more expensive. The neighborhoods they live in are more expensive. The way they talk about vacations, cars, homes, and experiences is more expensive. You don't make a conscious decision to match them, but over time, the gravitational pull of social comparison does the math for you. The second force is something called hedonic adaptation, and this one is particularly brutal because it attacks the very reward you're chasing. Hedonic adaptation is your brain's ability to normalize any new circumstance almost immediately. You upgrade your apartment and for about 2 weeks it feels amazing. Then it just feels like where you live. You buy the nicer car and for about a month the drive to work is genuinely enjoyable. Then it's just your commute. The joy from any upgrade is temporary, but the financial cost is permanent. And so people find themselves in a cycle of perpetual upgrading, constantly chasing a feeling that evaporates almost as soon as they catch it. Each upgrade feels like it's going to finally be the thing that makes life feel right, and each time the feeling fades faster than the loan term on the thing they bought to achieve it. This is why you'll meet people making $200,000 a year who feel just as financially anxious as they did at $60,000. They're running on a hedonic treadmill, moving fast, expending enormous energy, and staying exactly in place. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that most financial conversations completely skip over. Lifestyle inflation doesn't just affect your bank account, it affects your options, your freedom, your ability to make decisions based on what you actually want rather than what your financial situation forces you into. Every dollar you commit to a fixed expense is a dollar that removes choice from your life. When you upgrade to a more expensive apartment, you're not just spending more on rent, you're creating an obligation that locks you into your current income level or higher. You can't take a sabbatical. You can't start a business. You can't take a lower-paying job that might be more fulfilling. You can't weather a layoff without immediate crisis. People talk about the golden handcuffs of high-paying corporate jobs as if it's some kind of glamorous problem, but the golden handcuffs aren't built by the employer. They're built by the employee one lifestyle upgrade at a time until their expenses have perfectly consumed their income and leaving becomes financially impossible.
Let me give you a real scenario to illustrate what this actually looks like in practice, because the numbers are where this goes from abstract to genuinely alarming. Take two people. Both start their careers at $50,000 a year. Let's call them Alex and Jordan. Every 3 years, both of them get promoted and their salaries increase substantially. After 15 years, both Alex and Jordan are earning $140,000 a year. From the outside, their careers look identical, but here's what's been happening internally. Alex has been practicing what I'd call proportional escalation. Every raise triggered an equivalent lifestyle upgrade. New apartment, better car, nicer vacations, better restaurants, more subscriptions, more premium everything. At $50,000, Alex spent $46,000 and saved $4,000 per year. At $140,000, Alex spends $128,000 and saves $16,000 per year. Same savings in absolute terms, but still only saving about 8% of income. The standard of living has scaled almost perfectly with the income. Jordan took a different approach, not extreme frugality, not depriving themselves of everything enjoyable, just a specific, conscious decision to not let lifestyle creep consume every raise. Jordan allowed spending to increase but deliberately kept the gap between income and spending wide and growing. At $50,000, Jordan spent $40,000 and saved $10,000. At $140,000, Jordan spends $75,000 and saves $65,000 per year. Same career trajectory, same income, same starting point. 15 years later, the financial outcomes are not even comparable. Alex has accumulated around $180,000, assuming reasonable investment returns. Not bad, but not transformative either. Jordan has accumulated somewhere north of $800,000. Jordan is approaching financial independence. Alex is hoping their 401k works out. And here's the thing that makes this even more striking. Jordan didn't live a deprived life. They just refused to let every raise immediately become a raise in their cost of living. They let the gap compound instead of the lifestyle. The difference between those two outcomes isn't income, it's the relationship with income. Now let's talk about something that makes this even more complicated. Because just when you think you understand lifestyle inflation, there's another layer that most people never consider:
And it's the way that income growth itself creates pressure to spend more, regardless of what you personally want to do. Taxes are a real factor that most people underestimate when they're excited about a raise. When your income increases significantly, your marginal tax rate increases as well. That $30,000 raise doesn't actually land in your account as $30,000. Depending on your situation, you might take home somewhere between $18,000 and $22,000 of it after federal, state, and local taxes. The raise felt huge in the announcement. It lands in your bank account feeling substantially smaller. Then there's the professional cost of income growth. Higher-paying jobs frequently come with expectations around appearance, networking, and social participation that have real financial costs. You're expected to wear certain clothes, drive a reasonably respectable car, live in a neighborhood that doesn't embarrass you at company events, and participate in social outings that happen at price points your previous income wouldn't have supported. These aren't optional upgrades. They're often unspoken requirements of operating at certain professional levels. Nobody sits you down and says, you need to spend more money now that you've been promoted, but the message is communicated clearly through every interaction, every event, every casual conversation about weekend plans with colleagues who were spending at a level that your previous lifestyle couldn't match.
And then there's the sneakiest form of lifestyle inflation, the one that doesn't even feel like spending. Convenience creep. As your income rises and your time becomes more valuable, you start outsourcing things you used to do yourself. You get the meal delivery service because cooking feels like too much after a long day. You start using the grocery delivery app because going to the store takes time. You hire someone to clean your place because your weekends are precious. You take cabs and ride shares because parking is a hassle. You order the premium subscription because the free version has ads and your time is worth more than that. None of these things feel like extravagance. They feel like rational decisions made by a busy, productive person who earns good money. And individually, most of them are perfectly reasonable. But collectively, they can easily add $1,000 to $2,000 per month to your cost of living without you ever making a single conscious decision to spend more. It just happens, gradually, then suddenly. This is why budgeting apps that track spending always produce the same reaction: shock. People see the numbers and refuse to believe them. That can't be right. There's no way I'm spending that much on food. But the data doesn't lie. The lifestyle inflated around them while they were busy living it. Here's the really uncomfortable truth that this all points toward, and I want you to sit with this for a moment. Your salary, no matter how large it gets, cannot make you wealthy on its own. Wealth is not a function of income. It's a function of the difference between income and outflow, compounded over time. And if lifestyle inflation ensures that every increase in income is met with an equivalent increase in outflow, then the only thing a higher salary guarantees you is a more expensive version of the same financial stress you already have. This is why doctors, attorneys, and executives who retire with almost nothing, not because they didn't earn enough, because their lifestyle consumed everything they earned and left nothing to compound. And conversely, it's why there are teachers, nurses, and mid-level managers who retire with genuine financial freedom, not because they earned extraordinary amounts, but because they understood this principle and refused to let their lifestyle consume their income growth. The math rewards the gap, not the salary. So what actually works? Because I don't want to just lay out a problem and leave you staring at it. The first thing is what I call raise interception. Every time you get a raise, before the new amount hits your account and before your brain has time to recalibrate what feels normal, you automate a significant portion of that raise directly into investments. Not after you adjust your budget, not after you see how the new amount feels, immediately, before the lifestyle has a chance to claim it. This works because of the same hedonic adaptation that causes lifestyle inflation in the first place. Your brain adjusts to whatever you have available. If the raise never fully appears in your spending account, you never fully experience having it. You keep living the life your previous income supported while the difference quietly compounds in the background. It feels like sacrifice at first. Within about 90 days, it just feels like your life. The second thing is deliberate lifestyle design, which sounds fancy but is actually just the practice of consciously deciding which upgrades actually matter to you and ruthlessly avoiding the ones that don't. Most lifestyle inflation is passive. It just happens because you didn't decide against it. Deliberate lifestyle design flips that. Nothing upgrades unless you make an active case for why it's worth the trade-off. That doesn't mean living in austerity. It means spending significantly on the things that genuinely improve your life and not spending on the things that inflate your lifestyle without actually improving anything meaningful.
The expensive vacation you've wanted for years? Worth the deliberate choice. The slightly nicer apartment that's a marginal improvement over your current one? Probably not worth the permanent increase in monthly obligations. The third thing is learning to measure your financial health by net worth movement rather than income level. Most people measure their financial success by their salary. That's the number they share at dinner parties, negotiate for in job interviews, and use to assess how well they're doing relative to others. But salary is a terrible measure of financial health. Net worth is the real number. And net worth only grows when your accumulation consistently outpaces your lifestyle.
Start tracking your net worth monthly, not obsessively, just as a check-in that keeps you honest about whether your financial life is actually moving in the right direction, regardless of what your paycheck says.
The fourth thing is understanding the identity trap, because lifestyle inflation isn't just about convenience or social pressure, it's deeply tied to how we see ourselves. When you earn more, you feel like you should live like someone who earns more. Driving a modest car or living in a modest apartment at a high income can feel like a failure to claim the success you've earned, like you're not fully inhabiting your own life.
But this is exactly backwards. The person driving the expensive car on an expensive car payment isn't demonstrating financial success. They're demonstrating that their income is fully committed to their expenses, with nothing left over to build anything. The person driving something reliable and boring while maxing out their investment accounts every year is the one actually accumulating the kind of freedom that expensive things are supposed to symbolize. Real wealth doesn't look like lifestyle inflation. Real wealth looks like options. Choices, the ability to walk away from things that don't serve you and move toward things that do. No car payment communicates that. Only your balance sheet does. And here's the final thing I want to leave you with, because this is the part that tends to actually change behavior rather than just producing a temporary feeling of motivation before old habits reassert themselves. Every dollar you allow lifestyle inflation to claim is a dollar you will spend completely. You will use it up, experience it briefly, adapt to it, and need more of it to feel the same way. But every dollar you redirect into compounding investments is a dollar that keeps generating more dollars indefinitely. One path buys you a feeling that disappears, the other path builds a machine that works while you sleep.
Your salary will keep growing if you continue to develop your skills, your career, and your professional value. That growth is real and worth pursuing, but the salary itself will never make you wealthy. The gap between what you earn and what you spend, compounded patiently over time, that's the thing that builds wealth. That's always been the thing. The people who figured this out aren't necessarily earning more than you. They're just refusing to let their income set their lifestyle ceiling instead of their floor. And once you make that shift, the math starts working for you instead of against you. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily, and then faster, and then in ways that start to feel almost unfair. That's the game. And now you know how it actually works.